Okay, I'm going to record. So what I normally do is just, we don't necessarily need to prime the room because we're pretty primed, you and I, but I'll do a countdown just so I can mark where to start. So 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real. By now, you know what we do in this space is have conversations that matter with people who matter. And today, I am so excited to have a conversation with someone who's become a really good friend of mine and started out, Sarah, we'll talk about how we met, but you started out as someone who I admired from afar, didn't even realize you were in my town. And then I had to get together with you in person because you were so fascinating to me. And you helped me get some learning about movement. And we are going to revisit that at some point. But I just want to introduce everybody to Sarah Skedsvold. She's the founder of 9-4 Coaching, and we're going to ask her exactly what that means. She's a professional movement coach with a unique and broad education and experience from her careers in the military, personal training, and CrossFit. So Sarah's got a really specific target market, and I'll be interested to hear all about what that target market is and how you got there. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
You are just someone who fascinates me still to this day. And I go back to meeting you in that group that you were part of with me. We were in a coaching group together and I really connected with you. And then it occurred to me that you were in my town. I don't know. Did you know who I was before then?
Yeah, actually, so funny story. I was in a separate mastermind and we collectively studied your book, Power Tools. So I had admired you from afar, honestly, too. But I knew you were local. So I had a leg up, but I think it was we were just admiring each other's bodies of work. And then we got to meet in person.
Yeah. So Sarah, you have an interesting journey to get where you are today. And I don't know how to just jump into that. So let's just jump into that. You're from North Dakota, as am I. We're both from small town North Dakota, Class B athletes.
Yep.
And do you want to just tell us a little bit about how you got where you are?
Sure. So I grew up in a small town, Hazen, which is out in coal country. So we have power plants and we have coal mines. It's a big industry center of North Dakota. And I left there I graduated in 99, joined the North Dakota Army National Guard my senior year of high school. And all the way leading up to that, I'd been on teams. So I was very team driven. I wasn't like a great athlete, but I really liked being on teams. So as an extension of remaining on a team, I joined the Guard. And from there, I loved it. I was completely separate from like everything I've ever done before. None of my friends joined the military, but I adapted to it really well. Most people, it's a super big culture shock, and it was for me. But I super enjoyed it, and it got me to Fargo for college. I went to NDSU, got a couple years of generals done, and I loved the Guard enough to realize I didn't want to be a teacher, and that's what I was going to college for. So I became a full-time member of the North Dakota Army National Guard, and that became my career. Unlike when I joined the Guard, I got it, I was super upfront. I'm like, this is for school benefits, for a direction, a part-time job, whatever. Never thought I'd be retiring from it, and then I became a full-time member. So
what was that process like? Because I remember, I'm older than you, but I remember that the kids who joined the Guard back then were the kids who weren't cut out for college when I was in school. And so you did it to get benefits. My nephew did the same thing. And what was that process for you to join the Guard and then know you were going to go to school, be a teacher? What happened? How did you shift that?
It's to this day, I don't know why I joined the military. It all makes sense now, but when nothing about it made sense to me. But I always had this in the back of my head. When you're in the Army, you're going to need to do this. When you're in the Army, you're going to need to do this. When I was 7, 8, 9, 10, when I was that young, I was like, well, I'm in the Army, I'm going to be doing this and that. And so it was kind of it just sort of happened really quickly. I knew the recruiter was a referee that refed our girls basketball games, and he always refed against us. Anytime, I remember we would play our rivals, the hated Washburn Cardinals, and we never won. We could never win if he was reffing, and he still signed me as a guard. And so that, I guess that's a testament to the pull into the military and like his recruiting prowess, I guess.
Wow. So you said it was about being on a team, and you said when you were 6, 7, 8 years old, you knew about Army. Did you have family who was in the military?
I had like distant. So I think I had my stepdad's brother and his whole family, like his whole immediate family is in the Guard, but I didn't meet them till later. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, I didn't have any, like I watched a TV show called Tour of Duty. I still remember it. It was about Vietnam. They played the Rolling Stones, Paint It Black. Like that was the theme song. Like I remember that. And like, I think I watched more movies when I was a little kid, but it wasn't that thing. Like by the time I joined, it didn't make any sense, but looking back, it made nothing but sense.
Interesting. I've always said that we can only connect the dots of our lives looking back. You can't connect them looking forward. And you're kind of validating that. You said when you look back, it all made perfect sense. So do you feel like there was some sense of, I don't know, I'm going to say spirit, but spirit pulling you when you look back?
It was a framework to fit in. It was, but when I was in high school, I was a leader. I saw myself as like a citizen of Hazen, North Dakota. So I was active in school. I was a student athlete. I wasn't like a great student or a great athlete, but I was very active. Like I was an active participant. I was like a concessions chairperson. I was in student council. I was in honor society, but like not as an officer. I went to like city council meetings as like the student representative. I was a peer youth worker. Like I was an active citizen in the town. And in some ways, like there was this like weight of leadership where I saw it as like this clean break where I just wanted to be anonymous. And part of that anonymity, I guess, was like joining the Guard and like doing something where I was part of a different, like I was a cog in a wheel. I wasn't necessarily a leader, but that backfired too, because I was like a squad leader and I was like in shape. So in basic training, I was a leader there too.
So did it feel heavy being a leader when you were younger?
Yeah, most leader, like I don't actively seek out leadership roles or like I guess conventional leadership roles as I see them. There's something like off-putting, or it just doesn't fit. But in the absence of anybody else taking charge or taking control, then like that's what I do. I think just like as a firstborn, and like I was like a single mom for like most of my like young years, and I think like you gotta do something. Somebody's got to do it. So you figure it out. So I think that's where that all comes in.
It sounds, I don't know if this is how you intend it, but it sounds almost like somebody's got to do it. So there's an obligation piece in that, the responsibility of being a firstborn. If I don't do it, it won't get done, kind of thing. Is that how it occurred for you when you look back?
That's how, I don't know if that's how it's like, I don't know if that was the essence, but that's definitely like, I have a relationship of that growing into like as my career progressed, obligation and unlearning a lot of that, unlearning a lot of the like the extremes of that pull, or that I guess whatever the precursor is to obligation, like that pull of seeking refuge or seeking something,
Yeah.
seeking something else.
fascinating to me. I look at that as now in hindsight, looking back from my own life too, I call it imposed learning or enforced learning, where there's a lot of should around. I'm a firstborn too. And so there's a lot of like, you should do this, or you just need to know this, or you need to do things. And when I am aware of that now, looking back, I can see how heavy that felt. There were a lot of expectations on me that I put on me. They probably weren't put on me by other people, but I thought they were there. And I love what you said when you said, I wanted to just be a cog in a wheel. I didn't want to be a leader. And then you couldn't help it because it's who you are. It's how you're made, I think.
Yeah. And that's what I've learned, right? So I've learned to have a better relationship with leadership. Like I see, even because I'm a coach, I have a coaching practice, right? Like that's my job, is to be an authority. It's my job to be a person who knows and who embodies the confidence, like the physical confidence that my clients want to attain. Like that's part of my job. But in my highest like highest version of myself, I see myself as like a player coach, right? So I see myself as like on the team, I'm like a captain or a player coach. I don't see myself as a person who's separate from that entity. And that's where I'm most like, I want to like do the work, be like a working supervisor. If I'm at all in a leadership position, and I'm totally happy being a follower too, depending on the situation. I think most good leaders understand that they don't have to lead all the time, and are happy to be followers and that step down. A lot of my mentors that I had, even growing up in the Guard, it was a different time. Like we didn't have any wars going on or anything like that, or any deployments. It was very common for someone to achieve like the section leader, and then their last couple of years they would take like administrative reductions so that they could actually help train in the person that replaced them. And it was like this incredible removal of ego. And I was like, that's a player, like that's what I see. So that's kind of been my evolution of relationship with like leadership just in general.
I love that. Now, you had a career pretty much set in the Guard, and you were going to be, it sounded like when you said earlier, we're going to make this a career. What changed?
So I became a full-time member of the North Dakota Guard in December of 2022 or 2002, a lot of years ago. And not quite a month later, I was on my way to Fort Carson, Colorado for our first deployment to Iraq. And that was my like introduction into full-time National Guard. So from the jump, it was like peaks and valleys, I like emotional peaks and valleys. And every time, so I like did the deployment, incredible just experience. Most people don't ever have. So I feel super grateful to have had. I went to Iraq in 2003 to 2004, Kosovo 2009 to 2010, and then Kuwait in 2014, came home 2015. And in those interims, I had about a 5-year break between deployments. And that's just like the way it went for me. I volunteered for the first one, and I volunteered for the last one. And that's probably a whole nother series of podcast episodes. But in those middle grounds, like between, because when you're on deployment, that's like a 2-year emotional block that you're in. So you're prepping, depending on how fast you're going somewhere. You have this mission, and then you go through it, and then you come off of it. So in those middle parts, when I'm at home, you have the mundane administrative things where you're just trying to build a better mousetrap. I was a logistician, I was a supply sergeant, and then I was in charge of supply sergeants, and for most of my career. And it was our job to protect like taxpayers' money and take care of our soldiers. Like that was it. Like don't no fraud, waste, and abuse, and make sure that the people on the front lines have everything that they need. And it's, when you go on a deployment, you see what's really important. It's very difficult to come back and have to justify buying paper clips. It just is.
Wow.
It's such a weird headspace to go into. And then you have this obligation, right? Like that's when I start digging into to just having like a misalignment. And so anytime that I felt I had a misalignment, I just went back to school. So when I came home from Iraq, I went to Bismarck State College because I still wasn't sure that I was going to stick out. Like I was going to stick it out. So I went to BSc. I got an associate's degree in power and process plant technology. My whole family is in ethanol and coal, and like, well, worst case, I can go work at a plant. And then we ended up with our deployment to Kosovo. And I went and finished my 4-year degree at University of Mary because I was like, I'm going to law school. I'm done with
Wow.
I can't do this anymore. And I was 28 and I was just like, to Kosovo, I brought LSAT prep books.
Wow.
And then while I was on this mission in Kosovo, incredibly meaningful friend of mine who will come up later, Mark, he talked me into going to grad school at UMary. He's like, hey, there's a bunch of us doing this. You should do it too, right? And that's kind of, sometimes it's all it takes for me. And so I jumped in and I got my a master's in project management from UMary, which is an incredible school to like working with the military folks. Like they've been incredible. So I had my last deployment, and Mark and I were the 2 full-time team members. Our commander was actually a full-timer, but she worked in a different office and she worked in Bismarck. But Mark and I worked hand in hand together every day for about a year plus. And we took a really small group of 15 people to overseas. And this was the first time we actually worked with special forces. So it was an unconventional force. And we were empowered. It was a small team. They're like, look, you need to be able to do things alone and unafraid, which is completely different from the way that I was ever raised in the military, because you always have a battle buddy. And these guys have no time. They're like, look, you need to be elite at what you do. We trust you that you know what you're doing. You're going to be smart. You're going to be resourceful. Do not, nothing unethical, illegal, or immoral. Those are your 3, if you don't break those 3 rules, we will figure everything else out, right? And it was just like the hardest I've ever worked for the longest amount of time. And it felt meaningful. Like I explain it that I saw color. It was like seeing color.
Hang on 1 second. I get that. I saw color. We're going to come back to that. Every time you move, there's a click.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
You're very animated and I love it, but it's clicking on the sound.
Okay.
So
okay.
Go back and you can move your left hand, but not your right hand, because I think that's what's hitting the mic that's sitting there. Talk about, I saw color. Go back to that.
Yeah.
It was very meaningful.
It was super meaningful. Yeah. I saw it. It was like seeing color in that it it's really hard to define, but it felt right. I was doing, like I said, I was working incredibly hard, long hours, independent. We were just like trusted to do this job and do it really well. And when I came home, it was like I came back to black and white, and no one believed that color existed.
Wow.
So, and they tell you that, like anytime you go overseas, it's like going to the moon, and that you went to the moon, everybody you went to the moon with you, but people here didn't go to the moon. So like, there's going to be a little bit of there's always going to be a little bit of disconnect.
Yeah.
Well, for this last deployment, it was like, look, you went to Mars, and a lot of people go to the moon, but not many people go to Mars. And so even the military people aren't really going to understand like like what you did, right? And it's not to be like this elite thing, but it should have been like, I should have accepted it as, hey, set your expectations for giving grace and like giving compassion to where you are and where they are, right? Just understand there's going to be a divide. And I was at a point where like I couldn't do that. So we got home July 2015. I got promoted to what I thought would be my last position in a little over a year later. So I was a Master Sergeant E8 at 35 years old, which is not common, not super common, like in the full-time sense. And I was at the position where I figured I was like, that's where I was going to retire. There was only 2 other positions that were for that rank and a whole nother like frameworks and things. And I was like, well, this is where I'm going to be. And I got there, and it was just a huge misalignment. What happened is I shouldn't have taken that last promotion. If I were to like look back on it,
Mm-hmm.
I promoted for where like, and maybe I would have evolved, but I took that last promotion and I just wasn't like, I didn't have the emotional tools to know where I was. I didn't have the emotional tools to like ask for help. I relied on being really good at my job, and I was in a position where that wasn't enough and I didn't know what to do. So within a year I resigned.
Did you have, it sounds like, and I could be reading into this, but it sounds like it was almost a break point for you. Did
Definitely.
you break down?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, break down to breakthrough is what I'm hearing.
Yep. Yeah. So we had this, and it's funny how time, like puts everything into perspective, but in the moment. So I come in, and I have a team of a few people, and we have this maintenance evaluation that comes up every 3 years. And working for a regional training institute, it's a bigger deal because we have we're a schoolhouse who trains active duty, reserves, and National Guard. It's not just a National Guard thing. And it's just this, it takes a full team effort to pass this evaluation. And we just got buried. And when I walked into that position, I knew it, like I knew that's where we were. And I also knew that, it had been allowed to be like, it couldn't have gotten that bad in the time that I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, this just must be like, we're going to do our best. We worked our asses off to pass this evaluation. And I emptied the gas tank. I didn't ask for help. I couldn't ask for help. We did the best we could. We were trying to we were like treading water, and we were just drowning, right? That's what it felt like. And so we go through this evaluation, and I was like, well, this isn't great, but it's not bad. And we got murdered on the outbrief. Like I took it so personal, and it wasn't like, it's not designed for that. And I didn't respect the team. I didn't respect like their evaluation. And it was just a lot to like take on, because in order to have professional demeanor, like I really prided myself on being a professional, and like I wasn't going to have some crazy outburst. So it was just all like internal. And from that moment, I was like, I can't do anymore. Like I completely emptied the gas tank. I am like, we just need to pass this evaluation and then we'll be good, right? And then we didn't pass it. So then we had like 3 more months to get our operation back in order so that we could pass the reevaluation. And then in that time, I found CrossFit. Like I found something else, and I knew I had an out. Not like I had an out, but I knew I couldn't be in that position anymore. And I didn't trust anybody. Like looking back, I didn't trust my leadership. I didn't trust anybody outside of the organization to even give me an option.
Yeah.
It was, when I resigned, it was unprecedented.
Yeah.
No one of that rank has ever resigned with like an exemplary, like military record. That was a huge cry for help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah. So all of that is hindsight now with some perspective that you've got gained over how many years? 2 or 3 years?
Oh boy, math. So
right?
yeah. So I resigned in July 2017. So
Okay.
going on 5 years.
5 years. Okay. So did it get easier in looking back? Did it, like 5 years removed, you said you have different ways of seeing what was going on, and you came to the point at which instead of maybe staying and figuring it out, you had to take care of yourself and leave so you could figure yourself out maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like joining the military, resigning from my full-time position makes, like, I needed to do that. And it's not because I could have stayed. I don't ever regret leaving. It's so last month would have been the month that I would have retired.
Wow.
So, and in the moment, it was $1 million decision, and I knew it. Like, paying allowances plus the retirement pay, like the years that I was giving up between now and when I'm 59, it was $1 million decision.
Wow.
And I don't regret a second of it, because I don't know how I would have been.
Yeah.
Like 5 years without this, like, growth just as a human being, and like really getting into myself and being the kind of person who can sit and have this conversation like with an open heart, and like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and I like, and being really honest that like it was just a really bad, like, for like the ingredients weren't right. Like,
yeah.
You can have like all really good quality ingredients, and if you put them in like the wrong it's too hot, too cold, wrong ratio, it's just not going to work out, right? That's just cooking or baking. Same thing. And that's the foundational elements of my coaching practice are based to help that 35-year-old that didn't have a shit together and didn't know it.
So this is key. I hope everybody who's listening to this can really take that to heart, because at 35, if those of us who are older than 35 might have had somebody like Sarah to guide us through with your own experience, Sarah, not like I'm going to tell you what to do, not having done it myself, but I've been there. I'm with you in this journey. That is a huge distinction. And I think people back in my day, I sound so old, but people back in my day, you push through. It doesn't matter. This is going to sound harsh, but you don't matter. The outcome is all we care about. And I think that was a less aware leadership model that was probably much more prevalent back then. And it sounds to me like, I love that you said this is how your coaching was born. You say in your bio here, I help my clients reclaim their physical freedom and restore their sense of self-reliance by building physical and emotional durability, using strength work, breath work, and getting outside, working together one-on-one, in person or remotely. So that is a like permission almost to get back in touch with themselves.
Yeah. That's the only like the only way out is through. And even in the guard, the fastest way out is through. And you like find yourself in these training situations, and it's, that's like, just do the coursework. And because if you try to get out of it, it's going to take more time than to just do the work and be done with it. What I've learned is that, taken in a literal sense, we tend to try to start to outrun our problems, outwork them. I call it like, I would just, and that's like 90% of my military career is based on outworking problems. I'm going to outsmart it. I'm going to outwork it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is that you got to stop and you got to work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And working through, like, that's the hard work. That's the emotional work. That's the, like, feeling your feelings. And then like moving through that, right? Like letting your emotions, like, feel them, because they're not going to last forever. And in the military, and maybe being a firstborn, I don't know. It was like, there wasn't ever really like time to have emotions. And I never like gave myself that outlet.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, like, okay, you got to do the next thing and do the next thing and do the next thing. There's never like a time to feel. So when I started doing this, I was like, God, if I start feeling now, I will feel like this forever.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of people that are like super scared to even try, because it's like, God, once you got, like, I don't know, I picture this huge warehouse of boxes of feelings. And it's like, if I start taking all this out, it will never end.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, it will.
Mm.
Anybody that's got kids will see it, because when you got a 2-year-old that has, like, not had a nap, and it is like they stub their toe or whatever, you like bring them the wrong color popsicle and they lose their mind for like 20 minutes. And then after that, they're like arms around your neck, loving you, like loving all the things. That's what actually feeling your emotions feels like. It feels like it's going to be forever. And like maybe that first or second time it is like, it's going to be a while, but like you just get tired.
Yeah.
Like physiology, like you just can't like release all those emotions and not like run out of steam.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you're gonna like cry yourself out or scream your vocal cords out or whatever. And then once that's out, then you can like, okay, what was behind that? Then you can be rational.
Yeah.
But we skip that a lot, like most of us. Maybe it's because we're in the upper Midwest, and maybe because military or whatever, but we don't we try to rationalize before we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just take that emotional box, you put it away, and it's eventually like you can do it until you can't. And that's what happened to me too. I failed this evaluation. It is not that big a deal. Yeah. But it, like, I burned my entire career. I guess I didn't burn it down, but like I burned down my entire life because of that evaluation. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't that evaluation. Like it was, it was everything.
Yeah.
And like in retrospect, God, it all needed to happen. Most things, and like most meaningful things in life, if you knew up front, the amount of like work and like devastation and heartbreak would be required to get that like literal pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, most people wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you like, even having kids, like if you told, hey, this is exactly what it's going to feel like, people would just like second guess a lot.
Yeah.
But looking back, it's like, God, that was all worth it.
Yeah.
Because it feels so good. So
personal development, when the way you're describing it, is a lot of emotional baggage release. Mm-hmm. And the flashlight has to be shown in those corners that we've been trying to avoid. It's part of the process of being real, to go back to what this podcast is about. Radical means going back to the root. It doesn't mean getting wild and crazy out there. But when we get back to the root, when we go in that space you're describing, where we feel our feelings and look at what we've been avoiding, that seems radical because very few people do it. You said people are pushing through. Where we live in the upper Midwest, or if it's military, or if it's shooting all over ourselves forever, that will get you through. That will get you to the end of your life. But will you ever have really experienced all aspects of your life if you aren't real?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so E is energy, right? REAL. E is energy. And you're describing some sort of energy. You're describing heavy energy, which if we're not aware, we haven't shown that light, we don't realize there's another way to feel energy. It could be lighter. It doesn't have to be heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the A is authentic, which is exactly what you're describing. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, I need to take responsibility maybe for the things that you didn't say this, Sarah, but I can hear in your story that I used to blame other people for things and not knowing I was doing that because I was in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know my victim, I have a victim saboteur in my head that was like, if only you knew how hard it was and how hard I worked and all that. Those voices can really prevent us from being authentic. And one thing I love about you and our relationship as friends is your learning focus. You are very learning focused, and you are always now looking for new ways to learn for your business, for your clients, so that you can be the most the most real companion for them. That's how I see you.
It's just fundamentals, like that's one of them, the book or
Hang on, I might be my internet, but when you said fundamentals, everything after that was jumbled. So, okay, I think you're back.
We good?
Okay.
Yeah. It like everything is it's fundamentals. Like same thing. Like that's why we were studying, your book, Power Tools. It's everyone's saying the same thing. I've read 7 Habits and Extreme Ownership and Think and Grow Rich, and it's all fundamentals. And sometimes you just need someone else to say it in a different way. When I was a CrossFit coach, we all were like very quality movement focused, and I could say a cue and another coach could say the exact same cue to the same person, and it's going to hit with them in a different way. So I'm just honestly, like, with my message and just like being me in my practice, like I'm just looking for ones, for people that resonate with me. And that's the beauty of like your Get Real project too. It's resonating with the people that it resonates with. And I'm happy to like continue to like lift up those fundamentals, because there's so much room for everybody, especially in this space. And it takes a village. Like, it just takes a village for people to do, to realize anything meaningful. You can't do it alone. And no one, like, it's not fun.
It's not fun alone. It's sure not. So this is great, Sarah. I like earlier you said we could have 2 or 3 more. This could be a series about these things, and it sure could. But let's talk just a little bit about 9-4 coaching and who you are looking to serve. You mentioned that you want to work with the people who you resonate with. What exactly is 9-4 coaching?
So it's an evolution. It's my coaching practice, primarily based in building durability. So what does that? I mean, most people don't want to say they feel fragile, but when you look at it, pain makes us avoid all kinds of movements, and in that, like, physical pain makes us feel fragile, right? Like, you can't put dishes away in the upper cabinet because your shoulder hurts. You're worried that going down the steps, your knee's going to hurt. You don't pick up that dog food because you don't want your back to go out, right? You don't go play with your kids because you're afraid you're going to twist your ankle or whatever. And so that's like physical fragility. But then there's that emotional too. Like, I am not going to put myself in a situation because I might blow up, right? Like, I was in some ways I was like physically fragile. I had a really bad back, as did most of the people that I worked with when I was in my 20s, just in the military, just have bad, quote unquote, bad pieces and parts of them. But just like I would avoid movement, I would avoid situations, circumstances, because I didn't feel like I had a like control over my emotions. So I am getting into, so I built my practice around restoring that physical freedom. Like, I am a strength and conditioning coach. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a movement coach, movement practitioner. I'm becoming an active life professional, which means that I can think like a physical therapist and fully just maintain my role as a coach and not a clinician. And I'm I'm getting outside because God, during COVID, I needed to, and nature isn't that far away. Going out in the backyard and putting your feet into grass. Like, when was the last time anybody did that? I mean, that's an awesome place to start. So I work one-on-one remotely, but I'm looking for people who are tired of feeling fragile. That's the thing. I'm not about to go walk around and point at people, because everybody needs to like honor their own journeys.
Yeah.
So when people are feeling tired of feeling fragile, like, hit me up. I'm on Instagram. I have a Substack, which I'm going to be contributing to a lot more. And I have these sessions that are called Going Into the Woods.
Uh-huh.
So I just had my first one this past weekend. For all of our listeners, it'll be later than that. But it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature have an individual experience in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that.
I can vouch for that, because the company I worked for last year brought Sarah in, and we did have individual experiences in a group setting in a nature and in a park I didn't even know existed. And that was a fabulous experience. So I can vouch for that personally.
Yeah, it's crazy how little, for me, I set the stage, right? I set the stage, my clients do the work, and it's their wins. It's my job as a coach is to really set the space and like listen and like make sure my clients feel heard and seen, and take all the knowledge that I've ever had and just use that to set it up for success. Like that's it. It's my job to set the stage. It's their job to crush it.
Love it. Love it. So there, I will put information and where you can find Sarah. She's got a podcast, 9-4 Radio. She's got a blog. She's got a website, 9-4 Coaching. And I'll put all of that in the show notes so that you can reach out to her. Sarah, this has been, I've had these conversations with you, but this has been even more than I knew before. So I love the way you framed it. I love the conversation. I love your ability and willingness to be real with us, because we need to go first, to allow people to touch their own feelings and get into that space. I love that you said the only way to the other side is through. And so let's go through this life with those who want to get real.
Yeah, this is my pleasure. I like having conversations that other people can listen to. That's what I try to do with my podcast also, is just have a conversation that other people can listen to.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. And as always, everybody, get real. So I will stop. I have to figure out how to stop. Stop recording. Okay.